role demand that we are all living in a state of chronic stress. And maybe not all, but I certainly know in the parts of the world, my personal world and where I operate, well, especially when I'm thinking about people of color, and then especially when I'm thinking about women of color, we are living in a state of constant chronic stress. And I think the question that you asked before about how do I know? Like, how does a person know that? How can we become attuned and acknowledge that? I think that's part of where we all have to do some better work for ourselves and to work to be a little bit more selfish and finding ways to get quiet, to get calm, to be able to figure that out for ourselves, and then to be able to move beyond that. So the research on role overload is pretty clear. And what I find fascinating about this is that most of the research happens in the management business world around this idea of role overload. It's a psychological concept, but it's mostly used in business literature. And it's really simple, like most psychological concepts. Like the solution to reducing the effects of role overload or role strain is always related to reducing demands, increasing resources, or both of those things, one or the other or both.
And
right.
I use the colloquialism, better said than done. Right.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I said that there's nothing new under the sun. And it is really simple, but doing it right. And this is why I've been really trying to consciously ask myself, like, how do I opt out? Because so I'll just give some examples from my personal life. You know what? I'll share with the listeners one of my personal social media posts from just this week.
Gentlemen, we are about to get doopy deep with Dr. Nikki.
So I'm going to lay it all out just this Wednesday at 6:40 p.m. Central Standard Time. I posted, when you've been up since 6 a.m., gotten the kiddo to school, taught 2 classes, picked the kid up and taken her to ballet class, leave ballet only to sit in traffic for 40 minutes, but your child is giving a full concert of her original tunes about rabbits and cats, parentheses, think one person duet, and that's essentially what it was. So she's doing original tunes about rabbits and cats, knocking on doors, eating cupcakes, and fighting over toys, and being sent to jail. ... And there's still dinner, bath, and books to be had before you have any quiet time. ... You might be a little bit over Wednesday.
Can we just give a shout out to your daughter, though, for rabbits? And what is it? Rabbits and bears?
Rabbits and cats. It was
rabbits and cats.
Cats.
Can we just give her a shout out for the rabbits and cats? Because I could see that happening. I could see them fighting. I could see them fighting over things, toys,
it was
food.
So musical.
I could see one of them going to jail. I can see that.
When I tell you, it was a whole situation in that back seat for the 40 minutes.
My question is, why don't you have a Netflix show? Because that right there.
I feel like I just need to put up a GoPro in the car and in the house and just keep them running all the time.
Just someone to animate it. We can find an animator, right? And get that animated cats versus hares.
Rabbits.
Right. Fight.
Cats and hares.
Just do it in the old style of Street Fighter.
I mean, it was fabulous. Because so at one point when she started, I was like, in my head, and so grateful many times because I want her to have a full self-esteem. I want her to always believe that she is the most wonderful being on the planet. And so I'm really grateful that a lot of times I'm forced to not, the way the car is designed, there's no way that she can see my face, because when she first started, this look on my face was like, I know she's not going, I know this is not happening right. I don't have this in me right now. Doesn't she hear the radio going? Like, what? Why are these pop songs not good enough for her? They're good enough for me.
She don't check for pop. She's not checking for your pop. You can leave all that Ariana Grande for the next one, right?
All of them. Don't
She's
need it.
doing
No Magic
originals,
Dragons,
show
nothing.
tunes, baby.
Show and
TV
that's
show, TV
and
show
then,
tunes.
and at some point, I mean, it had sound effects. Like there was not like that. How it started was, and I don't know how
Well, she
loud
full
this was.
service. She's giving my company a run for the money.
Hello, how loud this would be, but she was like she was knocking on the window. She was like,
And the beat.
there is a how was it? There's a cat knocking on my door. Cat knocking on my door.
Let me tell you right now, first of all, that's a foot stomp. That's a foot stomp groove right there. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead on and put my business in the streets. This summer when I drop, there's a cat knocking on my door. And Dr. Nikki sues me for stealing her daughter's stuff. I'm going to go on and say, Your Honor, listen to the podcast. I stole it. The beat was tight. The lyrics were on point. And the house kids were, cat knocking on my door. Cat knocking on. We had to have it in the club.
Oh my God. And so very shortly after my irritation started, I just had to say to myself, you know what? She is happy. And she is always happiest when she's creating, and just let her have it. And then at some point, like I was into it, like, well, what's gonna happen next? Like, because it was like a saga.
You got in the story. But I just want to say something too.
Because if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
If you can't beat them, join them.
To the point that you're making about being stressed and being overwhelmed, I think there's something else that people often forget. And I hear people say things like being a mother is an easy job or whatever foolishness.
What? Who said that? No understand. Mother ever.
Right.
No mother.
Well, you know
ever.
what's funny? I was looking at this comedian Bill Burr, and he did this whole set about being a mother is the easiest job, and you basically get paid to put someone in time out when they get on your nerves. And it was just the way he said it in his attempt to be funny. And I get it. It's comedy. There's always that degree of, quote, truth as a comedian. But I get it. You're trying to be funny. Get you. But the thing I find interesting about that is at that point, you're in that car driving from point A to point B in Houston traffic, something I wish on no one, right? And what you really want, you put on those pop tunes because you just wanted to escape. You wanted peace. You wanted to not be a part of anything because you were tired. You had all the stuff that happened during the day and all the stuff you still had to do before you're able to put your head on a pillow. And here comes your daughter. And you have to fight the urge to be annoyed by her just being a child. That adds stress to your day. And I don't think that people get that. You know what I mean? Those choices that you have to make in those moments to be a good mother.
Right. To not go, would you please be quiet?
Right.
Can we just be quiet? Like,
as we all know, we've all seen those people at the local grocery. I told you to shut up. You wait till we get back home. Like, we've all seen that, right? So we understand what that's like.
And for me, to be completely transparent, I've had a moment like that or two or three or four with her over the years. But that's always my canary in the mine, as they say. When I don't have the capacity to have that internal dialogue that I had with myself and let her continue to have her moment, when I lose the capacity to be able to suck it in, take some deep breaths, get yourself together. Let's focus on the priority. When I can't do that, when I go straight from be quiet, I can't handle it. That's how I know I'm distressed. That's how I know it's time to put the brakes on some stuff. I got to bring it back in because she didn't sign up for all of the foolishness that I've signed up for.
Right. So it's about finding those indicators in your life that clearly speak to a pattern of distress. Perfect.
And for quote unquote friends and family, they're not doing that part. They're just passively participating. They tend to have higher, scores of depression than individuals that are engaging more actively in social media. Wow. So it's really it's a false balm if you're just like looking at other people's lives. Like if you're just scrolling through the gram, that does have negative psychological impact on you.
Interesting. Okay. What you want to talk more about that? Why would that be?
So I think for me, to be a broken record. I think it goes back to this social comparison theory. It's one thing if you're like, oh, those boots are cute. Let me show you my cute boots, right? Where you still have a sense of, here's my contribution. Here's my sense of self. Here's how I want to engage others, or here are the things that are important to me. Even if all you're doing is just reposting other people's posts, or like I follow a lot of social and political movement outlets, and I tend to repost. Like if you're only doing that, there's still some contribution of your own. But if you are just sitting back and watching people in your social network, what they're doing, it is almost just like being a witness to other people's joy or happiness. Because the other part of the story that we haven't really said explicitly in this conversation is nobody posts bad things on social media. Right? Like, who is posting pictures of them? I am in a depression. Not right? Not oh, I'm so glad I'm feeling better now. But like, look at me in my bed in the dark. I am depressed now.
I don't even know what filter will help you with the dark shot.
None.
But no. None. To that point now, it's interesting you said that, because I was just about to ask a question. So I do know people who post too much of their personal business, like went on a date,
when they had a fight with such
horrible.
and such,
right?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So so it's so now we're in the same place. It's about
where they use social media as basically like a life journal. They like Doogie Howser all over
You're journaling on Facebook, right? And so you're putting up this Instagram photo of this quote of the sun will come out tomorrow. You know, you're doing your Annie, and you do this long, like 3-4 paragraph. I mean, it is not taken away from their pain, because the pain is real, but it always leads me to, if you and I got into a fight, I wouldn't go to your show page, screenshot an episode of Doopy Deep and then post it on my Facebook. It's so sad when you help people out in the podcast world.
Not to laugh.
And they move on to SiriusXM and leave you sad on Spreaker. Like, that's... But I do have the beginning of that paragraph.
You do. You're ready.
That happens.
You got the draft saved.
No, but seriously, like that's not even how my mind thinks. So
yeah, I have to get some thought about that. My
about?
gut reaction is for me is that's not to diminish anyone's real pain or to invalidate that. I also think that sort of behavior is functional, and that it's trying to draw out a explicit reaction. So for me, the function is the same. It's just using a different tool. So instead of posting me in my gym selfie, I'm going to post this other thing. But the goal is to get likes because you want the attention. Real game.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because in this context, isn't attention synonymous with validation?
I guess it would be.
In this context.
Yeah.
Not in everything, but in this particular context.
In this context, yes. Yes.
And so I think for a lot of people, that is the end game. But I guess what I meant to say, and I was saying nobody hyperbolically, what I'm saying is I don't think that people who...
And I'm sure that there's a genuine degree of... No, I'm going to say that differently. I'm sure that there are people who genuinely, when they reach out on social media, are looking for the attention and they're using it as a tool. They're looking for help, but they're not... They're going through something, but they're not necessarily feeling it in such a way that it affects them, and you pick up the phone. But there are people in my life who are in the 20-something. They don't text. They'll hit me up on Instagram direct message. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the way they communicate. Or they'll communicate through Snapchat. I have a friend who does that, who gives a chronicle of his day and his divorce and housing issues and all of that. I think that's more about where he is as opposed to where society is. And he's really in some deep pain, like he really is. And I've tried to reach out to him and give him referrals and so forth, but he seems to be more comfortable speaking about it in a social forum, but not really doing anything about it personally. So I don't know really how to connect with him in a meaningful way to get him the assistance he needs. Yeah.
And so the answer to